Imagine a car so dominant, so ahead of its time, that racing officials had to ban it. This is the story of the BMW E46 M3 GTR, a car born from rivalry, forged through cunning engineering, and ultimately undone by its own success. In the early 2000s, BMW and Porsche were locked in fierce combat on the track, when BMW built a special V8-powered M3 that started beating Porsche at their own game.
But a brand new 4-litre V8, and that has really ruffled the Porsche feathers.
V8 that is in this car is not similar to any other V8 by BMW in the whole world. It's a purebred race motor.
Trouble for the Porsche camp. They're still up in arms that this V8-powered BMW can even run in the GT category.
Of our emails are about this car and about why BMW is allowed to run a V8 engine in M3 when you can't buy one on the street.
It caused such an uproar that the rules of racing were changed to stop it. The M3 GTR's tale is one of bold innovation, controversy, and irony. A giant slayer that ruled briefly and was exiled, only to become a legend among enthusiasts. Buckle up as we dive into how the M3 GTR was so good, it got banned. To understand why the M3 GTR existed at all, we have to rewind to the year 2000. In GT racing at the time, Porsche's 911 GT3 was king. BMW, with its proud motorsport heritage, was struggling to keep up in the American Le Mans Series GT class. The regular E46 M3, with its silky smooth 3.2-liter inline-six, was a brilliant road car, but on track it simply lacked the firepower to beat the lighter rear-engine Porsches. In the 2000 season, BMW's teams managed only a couple of podiums and watched Porsche dominate. For BMW Motorsport Director Dr. Mario Thesian, this was unacceptable. BMW needed more power, less weight, something radical. The solution was as audacious as it was unprecedented. Shoehorn a prototype V8 racing engine into the M3 and build a handful of road cars to make it legal. ALMS rules allowed manufacturers to run non-production engines in a production-based car, but only if they built a minimum number of street-legal versions. Thus, the idea of the M3 GTR was born, essentially an E46 M3 on steroids, purpose-built to compete with the best in motorsport. It would be a limited homologation special, built not for showrooms or profit, but purely to win races. BMW had done wild one-off race cars before, but the M3 GTR would take it to another level. This new M3 had to beat Porsche at their own game, and BMW's engineers had just months to make it happen.
By that brilliant blue and white number 42 4-liter V8 BMW M3.
Under the hood of the M3 GTR was an engine unlike any ever seen in a BMW M3. A 4-liter V8 codenamed P60 B40, built purely for racing. This was no refined Grand Tourer motor. It was a snarling power plant derived from BMW's prototype racing technology. With dual overhead cams, 32 valves, a dry sump oil system, and racing-tuned internals, the P60 V8 churned out about 440 horsepower in race trim. It wasn't just the horsepower that made it special. It was the way it delivered it. The V8 could spin to 8,500 RPM, emitting a fierce howl that spectators could hear long before the car came into view. For the first time, an M3 had an exhaust note that growled more like a Corvette or a prototype racer than the raspy straight-six BMW fans were used to. It was raw, loud, and utterly unhinged, exactly what BMW needed to shake up the status quo. The rest of the car received an equally extreme makeover. The M3 GTR's body was widened and lightened, with huge flared fenders to cover racing slicks and a wind tunnel tested aero kit to glue it to the track. Carbon fiber was used for major panels, the hood, roof, and even adjustable rear wing, slashing weight. The chassis was stiffened with a full roll cage, and the suspension was completely reworked for the rigors of endurance racing. In essence, this was a silhouette race car, wearing a street car's face, barely. About the only thing it shared with the showroom M3 were the basic shell and the iconic twin-kidney grille. Everything else was dialed up to 11. Crucially, to satisfy the letter of ALMS regulations, BMW had to build a small batch of street-legal M3 GTRs. The rulebook required at least 10 road-going units within 12 months. That might sound reasonable, but in practice it was a mad scramble. The engineers basically took the race car and toned it down just enough for road use. The resulting M3 GTR Strassen version, or street version, was hardly tamer. It used the same high-revving V8 engine, slightly detuned to about 350 horsepower for reliability and emissions. It kept the racing car's dry sump lubrication and even the carbon fiber roof. Unlike the sequential racing gearbox, the street cars got a 6-speed manual. These 10 homologation cars were finished just in time and officially presented in fall 2001. In fact, BMW debuted the Street M3 GTR at the Petit Le Mans race as proof the car met the rules. Each of those 10 cars cost an eye-watering sum, around €2,500 apiece, and were essentially collectibles from day one. But they had done their job. BMW had built the minimum number required, and the M3 GTR race car was cleared to compete. With the bureaucratic boxes checked and the race cars prepped, the BMW M3 GTR hit the track in anger in the 2001 ALMS series. It didn't take long for the new beast to make its presence known. The factory-backed Schneider Motorsport team from Germany and the US-based PTG team each fielded the new M3 GTR in the GT class. At the season opener in Texas, they were still using last year's straight 6 cars as the V8s weren't ready. But by the second race, the 12 Hours of Sebring in March 2001, the M3 GTR made its debut. Sebring is an unforgiving endurance race, and the new car was thrown into this trial by fire with minimal testing. Incredibly, it survived the full 12 hours and even finished on the podium in GT class. After the race, team manager Charlie Lamb admitted that upon inspection, it hardly would have lasted another mile. The car had been pushed to its absolute limit. It was a narrow escape, but also a sign. If the M3 GTR could endure Sebring right out of the gate, its potential was tremendous. Sure enough, once the early teething issues were ironed out, the M3 GTR became almost unbeatable. That season, the car proceeded to win 7 out of 10 races in the ALMS GT class, an astonishing run in what had been Porsche's playground. The breakthrough came in Europe at Yarmouth, Spain, where the M3 GTR scored its first victory and a 1-2 finish to boot.
Maiden victory for BMW, and they will finish 5 and 6 overall, winning that GT class ahead of the Porsche.
From that point on, the BMWs went on a tear. Wins followed at circuits all across America. Sears Point in California, another 1-2. Then Portland, Mosport, Mid-Ohio, and Laguna Seca, where the M3 GTRs often finished first and second, leaving the rest in the dust. The two teams worked in tandem, sometimes trading wins, but always pushing the pace at the front of the field. The season culminated in October at Petit Le Mans endurance race at Road Atlanta. By this finale, the championship was on the line. Porsche's top drivers were still in contention, but BMW's lead driver, Jörg Müller, was determined to seal the title. In a dramatic 10-hour showdown, the M3 GTRs once again proved untouchable. The number 6 PTG BMW battled throughout the day with the sister number 42 Schnitzer BMW. In the end, the number 6 car claimed the class victory, with the number 42 car finishing second. The nearest Porsche limped home a distant third, 4 laps down after the BMW onslaught. It was a storybook finish. BMW conquered the race and, in doing so, clinched every major ALMS GT title. Jörg Müller secured the Drivers' Championship. BMW Motorsport took the team title, and BMW won the Manufacturers' Championship for 2001. In one season, the M3 GTR had gone from an unproven experiment to the champion of GT racing. The celebrations by the BMW crew that night were euphoric. They had beaten the longtime kings and done it with a car that, a year prior, didn't even exist. However, this stunning success came at a price. All season long, rival teams, especially Porsche, watched the M3 GTR's dominance with growing frustration. To them, this BMW wasn't a true production-based car, but rather a factory prototype in disguise. After all, the M3 GTR's heart, the screaming V8, was not available in any standard M3 you could buy at the dealership.
But a brand new 4-litre V8, and that has really ruffled the Porsche feathers. They feel this car is not within the spirit of the regulations.
V8 that is in this car is not similar to any other V8 by BMW in the whole world. It's a purebred race motor.
Trouble for the Porsche camp. They're still up in arms that this V8-powered BMW can even run in the GT category.
Of our emails are about this car and about why BMW is allowed to run a V8 engine in M3 when you can't buy one on the street.
Yes, BMW had built the minimum 10 street versions, but those were essentially race cars with license plates, sold at exorbitant prices to satisfy the rulebook. Porsche and other competitors grumbled that BMW had found a loophole and exploited it brilliantly, perhaps too brilliantly. In the paddock, Porsche's representatives were lobbying hard, arguing that such a car violated the spirit of GT racing. There was a sense that the M3 GTR had made a mockery of the balance in the series, and if something wasn't done, no one else would have a shot at winning. The series organizers listened. For the 2002 season, the ALMS, in conjunction with the ACO rulemakers, enacted a dramatic change to the homologation requirements. No longer would 10 cars be enough to consider a car production. They raised the bar tenfold. Now manufacturers needed to build at least 100 road-going units of a model and produce at least 1,000 engines for it to be eligible. This was a direct response to the M3 GTR, a rule crafted specifically to rein in BMW's one-off special. It was effectively a ban in all but name. BMW was not about to produce 100 copies of a €250,000 supercar just to keep racing in GT. The message was clear. If you want to play, you have to play fair, or at least fair by the new rules. The beloved M3 GTR, the car that had handed BMW all the silverware in 2001, was legislated out of competition. Faced with this, BMW had no choice but to pull the plug on the ALMS program. After one glorious season, the M3 GTR's American adventure was over. The controversy of 2001 became the stuff of legend. Depending on who you asked, the M3 GTR was either a clever masterpiece of engineering or a cheater's delight that violated the spirit of the sport. Perhaps it was both. Even today, motorsport fans recall the saga with a grin about how BMW out-Porsched Porsche only to get the rulebook thrown at them. It was a classic case of pushing the boundaries, and it sparked debates about where the line between road car and race car should be drawn. In any case, the M3 GTR had made its mark. It won the war on the track, but the political battles off track ensured it would not get a chance to repeat the feat. Having been forced out of North American racing, the M3 GTR didn't simply fade into obscurity. BMW had built this incredible machine. They weren't about to just park all the cars in a warehouse. Instead, the M3 GTR found a second life in Europe, where racing rules were a bit more permissive for specialty cars. In 2003, BMW began entering the GTR and endurance races on the Nürburgring Nordschleife, the infamous Green Hell. Without the ALMS restrictions, the M3 GTR could properly stretch its legs, and it quickly became a fan favorite in Germany. The car's crowning achievements came in the 24 hours of Nürburgring, the brutal around-the-clock marathon on the Nordschleife. In 2004, the BMW M3 GTR claimed overall victory in the 24 hours of Nürburgring, defeating a field that included factory-backed teams from Porsche and others. Behind the wheel were a quartet of BMW's finest drivers, including Hans-Joachim Stock, a German racing icon who had been a part of the ALMS effort, and the talented Müller brothers, Jorg and Dirk. This win proved that M3 GTR's dominance wasn't limited to one continent, it was a world beater. Then, in 2005, BMW did it again, not only winning the Nürburgring 24 hours, but finishing first and second overall for the second year in a row. The number 2 BMW M3 GTR took the checkered flag, while the sister car followed it home, capping a 1-2 finish in one of the toughest races on Earth. American driver Boris Said, who had been part of the ALMS campaign and now joined the Nürburgring squad, became the first American ever to win the 24-hour Nürburgring that year, adding another historic footnote to the car's history. By the end of 2005, the E46 M3 GTR had nothing left to prove. It had dominated American GT racing, then crossed the Atlantic and conquered the most challenging endurance race in Europe twice. With the E46 road car going out of production and newer models on the horizon, BMW retired the M3 GTR from competition after 2005. As the final Nürburgring victory celebration died down, even veteran drivers got emotional. Hans-Joachim Stuck, who had won at the Ring in the M3 GTR and had been racing BMW since the 1970s, noted, "To take the first 2 places with both cars 2 years in a row is just a unique achievement. It's a pity the BMW M3 GTR is now heading for a museum." It truly was the end of an era. Charlie Lamb, the team manager, declared that the M3 GTR would enter the history books as a winner, calling it the most powerful M3 of all time and assuring that BMW would never forget it. After such a moment, the remaining M3 GTRs were lovingly mothballed, with at least one preserved in BMW's own museum collection. Though its racing days were brief, the BMW E46 M3 GTR's legacy looms large in automotive history and in enthusiast culture. In total, only 10 road-going M3 GTR Strassen version cars were ever built, making them virtually unicorns. At the time, they were astronomically expensive and sold only to select customers, if they were sold at all. Rumor has it some never left BMW's hands. Today, nobody knows for sure where all 10 are. Some are likely tucked away in private collections, never registered for street use. 1 or 2 reside with BMW itself, occasionally rolled out for display at the BMW Museum or events like the Goodwood Festival of Speed. Given their rarity, it's impossible to put a market price on the M3 GTR Strassen version. When one does surface, it's an occasion. These cars are cherished like the crown jewels of BMW's modern era, a direct link to that one wild season when BMW defied convention. Beyond the collectors and museums, the M3 GTR achieved everlasting fame in the digital world. If you're a younger car enthusiast, chances are you first encountered the M3 GTR not on a track or in a magazine, but in a video game. The car was featured on the cover of Need for Speed Most Wanted, and the silver and blue M3 GTR was the hero car of the storyline. An entire generation of gamers fell in love with the M3 GTR's looks and performance on virtual streets and circuits, cementing its status as a pop culture icon. Even if most will never see one in real life, millions have felt the thrill of driving the legendary M3 GTR on their screens. It's the poster child of a bygone era where manufacturers could build a no-holds-barred special just to win races and actually get away with it, at least for a while. In the broader sense, the M3 GTR's legacy is a testament to engineering ambition and the eternal cat and mouse between rule makers and racers. BMW pushed the envelope by creating a car that blurred the line between road car and race car, and in doing so, forced the rules to change. It demonstrated, with enough will and budget, you can fight giants like Porsche and come out on top. That underdog, against the odds spirit, is what makes the story so compelling. Enthusiasts admire the M3 GTR not just for its spec or its victories, but for what it represented, a bold gamble that paid off, and a car that was too good for the rules. 2 decades later, the BMW M3 GTR remains one of the most extraordinary chapters in BMW's motorsport saga. Its time in competition was short and intense, a supernova that burned brightly and then was gone. But its influence lives on every time we talk about the greatest racing cars, or even when BMW fans debate what the ultimate M3 is. As BMW's own motorsport veteran said, the M3 GTR has earned a niche of honor in the company's museum and in the hearts of its engineers. For the rest of us, it's the car that will forever symbolize the thrill of beating the odds. The BMW E46 M3 GTR may have been born from a rulebook loophole and then killed by a change, but in between it became a legend, one that won't be forgotten anytime soon. Thanks for watching. If you've made it this far and enjoyed the video, please consider subscribing. It really helps me keep making these videos.